music. Let me ask you something and don't answer it out loud. What if the worst thing that ever happened to you wasn't meant to break you, but to train you? What if the nights you didn't sleep, the people who walked away, the moments you questioned your own worth? What if none of that was random? Because here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Pain doesn't show up to people who are useless. It shows up where there is potential. And if you've been hurt deeply, repeatedly, unfairly, that's not a sign you're weak. It's a sign you were trusted with pressure. Most people spend their entire lives trying to escape pain. They numb it. They bury it. They distract themselves until it fades into the background. But pain doesn't fade. It waits. And while you're busy running from it, it's quietly shaping the way you think, the way you react, the way you see the world. Here's the part no one tells you. Pain will either become the thing that controls your life or the thing that gives you control over it. There is no third option. Every scar you carry has a decision attached to it. You can let it make you bitter, or you can let it make you precise. You can let it turn you into someone who reacts emotionally or someone who moves strategically. Because the people who learn how to sit with pain, understand it, and use it, they don't break under pressure. They become dangerous in the best possible way. And if you're still here listening to this, it's because some part of you already knows what you survived wasn't meant to be wasted. It was meant to be used. Pain is one of the most misunderstood experiences in the human life. Most people see it as something gone wrong, something unfair, something to escape as quickly as possible. From the moment it shows up, the instinct is to silence it, drown it out, pretend it isn't there. But pain was never designed to be noise. It is a signal, and signals exist for a reason. Pain shows up when something matters. It doesn't visit empty lives. It doesn't attach itself to people who are asleep, numb, or drifting without purpose. Pain attaches itself to impact, to effort, to connection, to risk. If you felt deep pain, it's because you were involved, invested, exposed. You cared enough to be affected. That alone separates you from most people who live safely on the surface of life, untouched and unchanged. Think about this. Your body uses pain to protect you. If you touch fire, pain is what saves you from keeping your hand there. If something inside you is wrong, pain alerts you before the damage becomes permanent. Emotionally, psychologically, mentally, it works the same way. Pain is not punishment. It's communication. It's your system telling you pay attention. Something here is important. But we were taught to treat pain like an enemy, to suppress it, to hide it, to rush past it. And when you ignore a signal long enough, it doesn't go away. It gets louder. It finds other ways to express itself. It turns into anxiety, into anger, into numbness, into exhaustion, into self-doubt. That's not pain becoming stronger. That's pain being ignored. There's a reason the strongest people you know didn't come from easy lives. Pressure reveals structure. Comfort reveals nothing. Pain forces adaptation. It forces awareness. It forces growth. You don't sharpen a blade by leaving it untouched. You sharpen it through friction, through resistance, through pressure. Pain is that friction. It strips away what's fake. It exposes what's weak. And if you don't run from it, it strengthens what remains. Most people assume that strong individuals don't feel pain. That's another lie. The truth is, strong people feel it more clearly. They just don't let it dictate their behavior. They understand the difference between feeling something and being controlled by it. Pain doesn't make you weak. Unexamined pain does. Pain you refuse to look at. Pain you refuse to learn from. When pain enters your life, it's pointing to something specific, a boundary that was crossed, a truth you avoided, a standard you compromised, a lesson you needed but didn't ask for. Pain highlights the exact area where growth is required. If you're paying attention, it shows you where you need to get stronger, smarter, more disciplined, more self-respecting. And here's the uncomfortable part. Pain often shows up before change does. It's the warning light, not the breakdown. But most people ignore the warning and then act surprised when everything collapses. They say, I didn't see this coming. But the pain was there. The discomfort was there. The signals were flashing. They just didn't want to slow down and listen. Pain also teaches humility. It reminds you that you're human, that you can be wrong, that you can misjudge people, situations, and even yourself. And humility isn't weakness. It's accuracy. It clears the ego. It sharpens perception. It helps you move forward with clarity instead of arrogance. Pain humbles you so you can rebuild on truth instead of illusion. Another thing pain does is expose what you value. You don't hurt over things that don't matter. You don't grieve what you didn't care about. Pain reveals your priorities with brutal honesty. And once you see what truly matters to you, you can start protecting it properly. You can set better boundaries. You can choose differently. You can stop giving your time, energy, and loyalty to things that don't deserve it. There's also a reason pain often feels isolating. It forces you inward. It strips away noise and distraction. It confronts you with yourself. And while that can feel uncomfortable, it's also where self-awareness is built. Growth doesn't happen in crowds. It happens in solitude, in reflection, in moments where you're forced to sit with what hurts instead of running from it. Pain builds emotional intelligence. It teaches you how quickly things can change, how fragile people can be, how words, actions, and decisions carry weight. You start to move differently. You listen more closely. You observe more carefully. You don't rush into things blindly anymore. That's not fear. That's wisdom earned the hard way. And if you've been through pain that others haven't, it gives you depth they don't yet have. You see beneath the surface. You sense tension before it explodes. You recognize patterns before they repeat. That awareness isn't something you can study in a book. It's trained through experience, through discomfort, through pain. The problem isn't that pain exists. The problem is that people waste it. They let it harden them instead of shape them. They let it close their hearts instead of strengthen their boundaries. They let it turn into resentment instead of resolve. But pain doesn't demand bitterness. It demands meaning. If you treat pain as a curse, it will you. If you treat it as a signal, it will guide you. It will show you where you need to grow, where you need to protect yourself, and where you need to change. Pain is not here to ruin you. It's here to refine you. So the next time pain shows up in your life, don't rush to silence it. Don't immediately label it as bad. Pause. Listen. Ask what it's trying to teach you. Because buried inside every painful experience is information that can make you stronger, sharper, and more resilient if you're willing to pay attention. Pain is not a curse. It's a signal. And the people who learn how to read that signal don't just survive life, they master it. Pain doesn't disappear just because you wish it would. It doesn't evaporate with time, success, or distraction. It stays. It settles into your body, your thoughts, your reactions. The only real choice you get is what role it plays in your life. You either carry pain like dead weight, letting it slow you down, or you weaponize it, turning it into something that works for you instead of against you. Most people carry their pain. You can see it in how they move through the world. They're guarded, reactive, easily offended. Old wounds dictate new decisions. A past betrayal turns into permanent mistrust. One failure becomes lifelong hesitation. Pain, when carried without intention, becomes baggage. And baggage doesn't just sit there. It affects your posture, your speed, your vision. It changes how you show up in every room, even when you don't realize it. Carried pain leaks out sideways. It shows up as sarcasm, defensiveness, impatience. It turns small problems into emotional explosions. It convinces you that everyone is a threat. Every situation is personal. Every challenge is an attack. That's not strength. That's unmanaged pain running the show. And the dangerous part is people don't realize they're being controlled by it. They think they're just being real or protecting themselves when, in reality, they're reacting from old injuries that were never addressed. Weaponized pain looks completely different. It's quiet, controlled, focused. It doesn't need to announce itself. When pain is weaponized, it becomes discipline. The kind of discipline that keeps you consistent when motivation disappears. The kind that reminds you what it costs to be careless, lazy, or unprepared. Weaponized pain doesn't make you angry at the world. It makes you precise with your choices. There is a reason some people grow colder, sharper, more composed after hardship, while others spiral. The difference isn't the amount of pain they experienced. It's what they decided to do with it. One person reels it over and over, reopening the wound, feeding it attention. Another person studies it, extracts lessons, builds systems to make sure it doesn't happen again. Same pain, different outcome. When you weaponize pain, you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What does this prepare me for?" That shift changes everything. Pain stops being personal and starts being purposeful. It becomes training data. It teaches you where you were naive, where you trusted too quickly, where you ignored red flags, where you failed to protect your time, energy, or standards. Weaponized pain creates boundaries, not walls. Boundaries. Walls are built out of fear. Boundaries are built out of clarity. Pain shows you exactly where your limits need to be. It teaches you when to say no without guilt, when to walk away without explanation, when to stop overextending yourself for people who wouldn't do the same for you. That's not cruelty. That's self-respect earned the hard way. There's also a physical component to this. Pain changes how you carry yourself. People who've been through real pressure don't fidget. They don't rush. They don't waste energy trying to prove themselves. There's a stillness to them. That stillness comes from knowing they've already survived worse. When pain is weaponized, it becomes confidence rooted in experience, not ego. Unweaponized pain turns into anger without direction. Weaponized pain turns into focus. You stop arguing with people who don't matter. You stop explaining yourself to those who've already decided not to understand you. You become selective, efficient, strategic, not because you're cold, but because you've learned what emotional chaos costs. Pain also sharpens your tolerance for discomfort. When you've been through real suffering, inconvenience doesn't scare you. Rejection doesn't destroy you. Hard work doesn't intimidate you. You've already been uncomfortable. You've already been alone. You've already doubted yourself and kept going anywhere. Oh, if you carry it, it will demand your peace, your focus, your joy. If you weaponize it, it will demand effort, discipline, and honesty. But only one of those choices gives you control. You don't get to choose whether pain enters your life, but you do get to choose whether it weakens you or sharpens you, whether it turns you into someone reactive and guarded or someone disciplined and dangerous in the best possible way. So don't carry your pain like a burden. Study it, shape it, turn it into something that protects you, strengthens you, and moves you forward. Because pain is either weight on your back or a weapon in your hands. Most people think power looks loud. They think it's dominance, aggression, the ability to overpower others or bend situations through force. But real power has never been noisy. Real power is quiet. It's controlled. It's the ability to remain steady when everything around you is chaotic. Control, not strength, not status, not emotion, is the real power. Anyone can lose control. Anyone can explode when they're angry, panic when they're afraid, or collapse when they're overwhelmed. That doesn't take skill. That's instinct. Animals do that. Children do that. Power begins where instinct ends, and choice begins. The person who can feel everything and still choose their response is the person who holds the advantage. Life will test you relentlessly. People will disrespect you. Situations will turn unfair. Plans will collapse without warning. In those moments, your emotions will demand immediate action. They'll push you to react, to defend, to strike back, to say something you can't take back. That's the moment where most people give their power away. Because the second your emotions control your behavior, someone else controls the situation. Control doesn't mean suppression. It doesn't mean pretending you don't feel anger, fear, or frustration. It means you acknowledge those emotions without letting them drive the vehicle. You let them inform you, not command you. Anger tells you a boundary was crossed. Fear tells you something matters. Stress tells you there's pressure. Control is knowing that information and still choosing your move deliberately. When you maintain control, time slows down. While others rush, you observe. While others speak, you listen. While others react, you calculate. That pause, sometimes only a second long, is where power lives. It's where you see angles others miss. It's where you avoid traps set by impulsive behavior. It's where you protect yourself from making emotional decisions that cost you later. Uncontrolled people are predictable. Push them and they'll snap. Praise them and they'll soften. Insult them and they'll chase validation. That predictability makes them easy to manipulate. Controlled people are the opposite. You can't rush them. You can't bait them. You can't provoke them into mistakes. They decide when and how they respond. That unpredictability makes them formidable. Control also gives you presence. When you walk into a room calm, measured, and aware, people notice, not because you're trying to impress, but because calm stands out in a world addicted to chaos. People feel safe around controlled individuals. They trust them. They follow them. Leadership isn't about being the loudest voice. It's about being the most stable one. Pain plays a critical role here. Pain trains control. When you've experienced real pressure, you understand that panic makes everything worse. You learn that clarity is survival. Pain teaches you to breathe through discomfort instead of escaping it. That ability transfers into every area of life. Work, relationships, conflict, decision, mem. You stop making moves out of desperation and start making them out of strategy. Control also means knowing when not to act. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every opportunity is meant for you. Emotional people feel compelled to respond to everything. Controlled people understand that restraint is often the stronger move. Silence, when used intentionally, can be more powerful than any argument. This kind of control creates emotional independence. You stop needing external validation. Praise doesn't inflate you. Criticism doesn't destroy you. You're anchored internally. That stability allows you to assess feedback objectively instead of defensively. You take what's useful and discard the rest. That alone accelerates growth faster than talent ever could. Control also protects your energy. Emotional reactions are expensive. They drain focus, cloud judgment, and create unnecessary conflict. When you operate from control, you conserve energy for what actually matters. You stop wasting on people who thrive on drama or situations designed to provoke you. That conservation makes you sharper, more consistent, more effective. There's also a moral dimension to control. Power without control is dangerous. It leads to abuse, impulsive decisions, and regret. Control ensures that whatever strength, influence, or authority you gain is used intentionally rather than recklessly. It keeps you aligned with your values instead of your impulses. The absence of control shows up in patterns. Same arguments, same mistakes, same outcomes. People wonder why nothing changes. But the answer is simple. The reactions stay the same. Control breaks patterns. It interrupts cycles. It creates space for new choices. Once you change how you respond, the entire dynamic shifts. Control also deepens relationships. When you don't lash out, withdraw, or manipulate emotionally, communication improves, trust builds, people know where they stand with you. That consistency creates respect, not fear, not obligation. Respect is the foundation of any lasting connection. Developing control is not easy. It requires self-awareness, practice, and humility. You have to catch yourself in moments where reacting feels justified. You have to sit with discomfort instead of discharging it onto others. That work is invisible, but the results are unmistakable. Over time, you become someone others can't shake, someone steady, someone reliable. The world will always try to pull you into chaos. It will reward outrage, speed, and emotional extremes. But those are distractions. The people who quietly win over the long term are the ones who master themselves first. They don't rush. They don't chase. They don't crumble under pressure. Control is not about being passive. It's about being intentional. When you act decisively. When you speak, your words carry weight. When you move, it's because you chose to, not because you were pushed. That's real power. Not the ability to dominate others, but the ability to govern yourself. And once you alert, it keeps you prepared. Pain also builds resilience that looks different from motivation. Motivation is fragile. It disappears when conditions aren't ideal. Resilience stays when you've already survived. Moments that felt unbearable. Everyday challenges lose their power to intimidate you. Rejection doesn't crush you. Failure doesn't define you. Hard work doesn't scare you. You've already been uncomfortable. You know you can endure. There's a calm that comes from that kind of resilience. Not the absence of emotion, but the presence of perspective. You don't overreact to small setbacks because you've seen worse. You don't panic when plans change because you've adapted before. While others spiral, you stabilize. That stability becomes your edge, especially in high-pressure environments where emotional control determines outcomes. Pain also strips away illusions. It shows you who people are when things get difficult. Who stays? Who leaves? Who only shows up when it's convenient. That clarity can hurt, but it's invaluable. Once you've seen behind the mask, you stop wasting time chasing approval or loyalty that isn't real. You become selective, intentional, efficient with your energy. That selectivity isn't coldness, it's wisdom. People who haven't been hurt often overextend themselves. They give too much, trust too quickly, and ignore red flags because they believe everyone operates with the same integrity they do. Pain teaches you that not everyone does. And that lesson, while uncomfortable, protects you from repeating the same mistakes. Your pain also deepens empathy. Even if you don't show it openly, you understand struggle when you see it in others. You recognize the quiet suffering, You notice when someone is barely holding it together. That awareness makes you a better leader, a better listener, a better presence. You don't dismiss people's experiences because you know how heavy unseen battles can be. At the same time, pain teaches discernment. You learn the difference between someone who wants help and someone who wants an audience. You stop being pulled into chaos that isn't yours to fix. You offer support without sacrificing yourself. That balance, compassion without self-destruction, is another edge most people never develop. Pain also changes your relationship with fear. Fear doesn't disappear, but it loses its authority. When you've already faced loss, embarrassment, rejection, or failure, fear stops being a warning and starts being a signal. A signal that growth is nearby, that something matters. You stop avoiding fear and start moving through it. That willingness to move toward discomfort sets you apart. While others hesitate, you act. While others wait for certainty, you move with calculated risk. You understand that safety is often an illusion and progress requires courage. Pain teaches you that staying still doesn't protect you. It just delays the inevitable. Another edge pain gives you is authenticity. When you've been broken down and rebuilt, you stop pretending. You don't need to impress people with a polished image. You know who you are. You know what you've survived. That quiet confidence doesn't seek validation, and because of that, it commands respect. People trust those who are real, not those who are perfect. Pain also refines your priorities. You stop chasing things that look good on the outside but feel empty on the inside. You value peace over approval, depth over popularity, meaning over noise. That clarity saves years of wasted effort. While others are distracted by trends and external validation, you focus on what actually matters to you. And perhaps the greatest edge pain gives you is purpose. When you've suffered, you don't want that suffering to be meaningless. You're driven to turn it into something useful. Strength, wisdom, protection, guidance. You want your experiences to count. That drive fuels persistence. When motivation fades, it gives direction to your effort. People who haven't been through pain often quit when things stop being fun. People who have been through pain know how to keep going when things get hard. That difference shows up over time. In careers, in relationships, in leadership, in life, consistency beats intensity. And pain builds consistency like nothing else can. Your pain didn't make you inferior. It didn't disqualify you. It didn't ruin your potential. It refined it. It gave you depth, awareness, resilience, and clarity that can't be replicated through comfort. While others may move faster in the beginning, you move further in the end. So don't resent what you've been through. Don't downplay it. Don't wish it away. Understand it. Learn from it. Use it. Because the very experiences that once made you feel broken are the same ones that give you an edge others don't have and never will. Pain demands meaning. If it doesn't get it, it turns corrosive. It eats away at you quietly, reshaping your thoughts, your identity, your future. But when pain is given purpose, it transforms. It stops being something that happened to you and becomes something that works through you. Purpose is the final form of pain. The point where suffering stops being an anchor and starts becoming fuel. At first, pain is personal. It's raw, immediate, overwhelming. It asks, why me? Why did this happen? Why did I lose that person, that opportunity, that version of myself in that stage? Pain is survival. You're just trying to get through the day. There's nothing poetic about it. There's nothing inspiring. It's heavy and isolating. And that stage matters. You don't rush past it. You endure it. But pain doesn't stay personal forever unless you trap it there. If pain never evolves, it turns inward. It becomes bitterness, resentment, a story you keep replaying where you are always the victim and the world is always against you. That's what happens when pain has no outlet, no direction, no meaning. It stagnates, and stagnant pain poisons everything it touches. Purpose is what gives pain direction. Purpose doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't justify it. It doesn't magically make it okay. Purpose simply answers the question, what now? What do I do with what I've survived? How do I move forward without pretending it didn't matter? When pain finds purpose, it stops asking to be healed and starts asking to be used. Purpose shifts your focus outward. Instead of obsessing over what you lost, you start paying attention to what you gained. Awareness, resilience, perspective, strength. You realize that your experiences didn't just damage you, they trained you. They gave you insight that can protect, guide, or strengthen others. That realization is a turning point. It's where pain begins to mature. People who find purpose in pain often don't set out to. It emerges naturally when they stop asking for their old life back and start building a new one with intention. They become protectors because they know what it's like to be unprotected. They become leaders because they know what it feels like to be lost. They become disciplined because chaos once cost them dearly. Purpose turns survival into responsibility. When you've seen how bad things can get, you don't take stability lightly. You don't waste time on shallow goals. You feel a responsibility to do something meaningful with the strength you've developed. Not out of guilt, but out of respect for what it took to get here. Purpose becomes a quiet promise you make to yourself. This will count. Purpose also gives pain boundaries. Without purpose, pain has no end. It keeps resurfacing, demanding attention, reopening wounds with purpose. Pain has a place. It becomes a reference point, not a residence. You can visit it without living there. You can remember without being consumed. There's a confidence that comes from purpose-shaped pain, not arrogance, not superiority. Confidence rooted in knowing you've been tested, knowing you've been reduced and rebuilt. Knowing that even if things fall apart again, you won't. That confidence isn't loud. It doesn't need approval.